Like when I look back on my journey with Comma, I would not be here if it weren't for partners, if it weren't for people both inside our business that were legitimately partners, financial partners, and those outside our business that were partners who just were willing to go down a journey with us when we didn't have all the answers. I wouldn't be here. I really am enjoying this process of struggling and failing and learning and then improvising and doing better together with other people that have a vested interest with me in that journey. And I am so fortunate to have been surrounded by people like that.
Welcome again to the Why It Matters podcast, where we discuss everything real estate, mortgage, investing. Today we're going to talk insurance and just success in general. We want to give you guys our best tips to help you create the life you dream of. My name is Justin Knoll, real estate veteran and coach, and I'm joined by one of the highest producing lenders in our area, in the nation, really, and best humans around, Nicole Ruth. Hey, Nicole.
In the house.
Here we go. Hey, guys, join us as we break down market happenings, trends, all that kind of stuff, and then we're going to throw in some things to help you in your life, in your business. This is Why It Matters.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on today's episode of Why It Matters. We are Nicole and Justin, and today we're talking about something that you need to know more about. We're talking about insurance, and we're not going to just stop there because if I was, you'd probably turn us off. But we're going to dive deep into insurance, but we're also going to get really deep on this young man that's in front of me who I am just in awe over what he's been able to build. So make sure to stick around for the whole story. I can't wait to share. Before we jump in, though, I want to give you some love to the people who are helping us behind the scenes. Peter, my man, Ruth, on the controls.
I am your man.
As well as Ashley, the pod queen, Gutierrez.
Oh my. I am not her man.
We have gone off the rails.
We are already there, folks.
Making sure we keep ourselves out of trouble and on track.
Too late.
Now, let's get into the episode.
All right, everybody, we are so excited for today. I want to introduce you to somebody I just met, and like Nicole said, in awe already, Timothy Harlin. He is the CEO of Comma Insurance, one of the brightest minds I've come across in quite some time. So if you'll indulge, we'd love to talk some insurance. We want to talk about you, my friend, because you've got an incredible story that we need to dig into and just share with the world. So welcome to Denver.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So far, so good.
Very good. Yeah,
Okay,
it's been a
good.
great trip.
So, Timothy, you're obviously in the insurance world. So much is happening. I think most of us in real estate are somewhat panicked. Nicole has talked a bunch about budgets, right? Household budgets when it comes to mortgages and how we're creating those and the relationship of budgets to tax increases and now insurance increases like crazy. Are you seeing this across the nation? Is this something that is just a problem all over? Or tell us what your thoughts are.
Well, I'd love to have you believe that it's just sunny weather everywhere and that there's no insurance issues anywhere. But to be honest, it's really difficult in much of the insurance market across the nation right now. Our company practices licensed in 49 states and has a decent amount of production in about half of those. And we're seeing rate increases that are at historic levels pretty much every state that we operate in.
Right.
And unfortunately, there's not a lot of relief coming very soon, but there are some early indicating signs that relief could be around the corner. And so I'd love to share with this group about those and what we have looked forward to over the next year or two.
Before we get jumping into that, though, I do want to, who are you with? Because we introduced you, but you're with Comma Insurance. Talk a little bit about who Comma is, because can a home buyer or homeowner reach out to you directly?
Absolutely. So Comma Insurance is a collection or network of independent insurance agencies around the country. We currently have about 20 locations, and we operate in states even that we don't have a location right now. So if you're interested in getting some advice from one of our licensed consultants on the insurance side of things, you can find us at commainsurance.com. That's COMMA insurance.com. And we have a little map there. It's interactive. You can click on it, find the state that you need insurance for, and select one of our local representatives there to get the help that you need.
Super interesting. So is this something that we're going to see more in the future of insurance, is more kind of networked approach or versus the big box, the ones we all know that have great TV commercials? but that seems to be all they're bringing value right now.
Well, I think there's question whether they're great or not.
Okay, fair enough.
Because we still get a lot of questions. It's funny. They've been advertising bundle your home and auto for what? I don't know, 25 years now.
Yes.
And we still get clients who have no idea that that's beneficial. So I question whether their advertising actually works. But yes, digging into that a little bit, I do believe the future of insurance is a distribution channel that utilizes local experts like the folks on the Comma team that can help consumers navigate a relatively complex purchasing decision like insurance. Yeah. And yes, there will continue to be brands that spend a lot of money on Super Bowl ads and other advertisements, and that's really good for all of us. Honestly, it floats our boats higher. But for a shop like Comma, we really enjoy the opportunity to tailor and customize those coverages for you and your family's unique needs. And that's something that's a lot harder to do on a true national scale for some of these big players.
It's almost a more bespoke approach to really customizing some insurance. You have that flexibility.
Yes. And one of the other things that we really like about being in the independent channel is that we're able to not only customize it on that first year, but for many of those clients who are now getting letters from their carrier that, hey, your rate went up 65% this year. Congratulations. Budget for that now. Yep. Yeah, we've all gotten some of those, right? We're there to help you along the way and make the decision whether you need to stay there with that carrier or potentially move your coverage. We work with a number of A-rated national carriers and some regional ones, and so we're able to provide some names you might have heard of, like Progressive and Travelers and the like. You probably see their advertisements. Others you might not have heard of. And so we're trying to provide a really bespoke experience for all of our clients because we believe every family deserves to have the right insurance and hopefully at the right price.
So some insurance companies have started pulling out of different states, which is impacting the cost, which is what you were just kind of touching on with the different weather patterns across the country. Do you see yourself as pulling out in any of those states, or do you see yourself as swooping in and possibly being the person that gains or gives that benefit to the clients on those states?
Well, that's a great question. So we believe that adversity can be the breeding ground for greats and for greatness. And so Comma's philosophy is that people still need insurance just as much as they did last year. It's a much more difficult landscape to navigate now, and so we take more time with each family that we work with. Honestly, our job got a lot harder, and we don't get paid any more for it unless they go with us. And so one of the things I like to share with clients sometimes is just like, how does an insurance agent even make money? Because I didn't know that. Really, until I got into the industry, I had no idea how my agent made money. And really what it amounts to as an independent advisor like we are, we only make money if a client chooses to work with us for their insurance. And if they choose to work with us for their insurance, we make a fraction of the amount that they pay to that carrier. So for instance, if you came to Comma and talked to one of our agents and ultimately decided that, hey, this Progressive home and auto package is a great solution for my family, then what would happen is you would say, yes, let's sign up the paperwork. Progressive would receive the money from you, and then they would pay us a small percentage of that. Usually it's between 7 and 15%. Happy to disclose that.
Okay.
It's really good, I think, when you know how your vendors make their money because you know that they need to work for you, and they only get paid if they do great work for you.
That's so funny that you just own that. Like, so many people don't in today's world. They try to, like, hold on to it or put it under the carpet. And I think that we can all do better if we're more transparent. Yes. So just love that trait. So thanks. I wanted to point that out. So as you're working in all the states across the country, what are you seeing? Like, how is it different in one state over another based on some of what we've experienced? Is some really major
events, disasters,
Yeah.
wildfires.
I don't know where that word went.
Yeah,
we got hammered with wildfires.
We're seeing a number of really challenging things. And one thing that's helpful sometimes in terms of understanding insurance is that really what we're doing as insurance consumers, that includes myself, is we're taking our funds and we're pooling them with the funds from a lot of other families so that there's money that's hopefully held in trust that can be paid out when someone's house burns down or when that hurricane comes through or when the major hailstorm destroys a bunch of roofs. And so what happens is when we as a country experience extreme weather events, and on the auto side, we've, personal auto claims have gone up a whole lot. We have obviously used auto prices are way up. The time to get your auto repaired is way up. That drives claim costs up. So what happens is when the actual claims that get paid out start to eat into that pool of capital that we've all paid in, then either the carrier's going to go out of business eventually or they've got to raise rates. And so what we've seen lately is a combination of both significant rate increases, but also some carriers simply saying, you know what, we don't really have the reserves to take on a lot of new risk right now. We're going to try to take care of the clients we have, but we may not take any new clients this year. Yeah. And so what you end up with is a supply side problem where we as agents would love to have more carriers saying, hey, even at this really expensive rate, we'll at least offer you coverage. In some states, it's even worse than that. It's, hey, we don't want to offer any policies at all at any price. And so where we're starting to see some nice improvements, and I touched on that earlier, there are some trends we're seeing on the actual loss ratios of these large national carriers that are favorable. We're starting to see the amount they're collecting in premium be a little closer to where it needs to be versus the amount that they pay out in claims each year. And that's the first step that needs to happen before we see any sort of rate relief for clients like you and me.
I think much of our audience, right, we're in real estate. Much of our audience can be realtors, some lenders. They better be watching this to learn from the best. Title, insurance, like these, and they're also consumers. At the end of the day, you're a consumer as well, right, for insurance.
A little more of one than I'd like sometimes. My rates go up too. I don't get any discounts, I promise.
That should change, right? So as they're watching, what are some of the things that they should be discussing or should be more knowledgeable about throughout the transaction, things they can share with their client base, or things that's the third rail? Don't touch that, because I know you probably look at some realtors and go, oh, please stop talking. You're making this worse. Guide us through and let our people know watching how they can improve their knowledge base and share.
So a couple things specific for our real estate professional audience today, and then maybe a couple things as an actual consumer. So for any real estate professional watching this today, I really think there are two things that you should know as a professional for your clients. Number one, I would say you need to have at least one, maybe more, but usually one really knowledgeable resource in your community that you can refer your clients to. I'm a big fan of the independent model, meaning I would look for someone who can represent more than one carrier, because I want to be able to make that referral and know that that client's going to get advice from multiple directions. So I would suggest interviewing some local independent agents in your market and finding someone who you like doing business with. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good they are if you don't like doing business with them. I really derive a lot of joy from being in business or partnerships or having transactions with people that I really like, that I enjoy being around, that I want them to be successful. So I promise, whether you're in a small community or a giant one, there's someone in your community who does care about your community, who would be a great resource and can help guide your clients. So number one, work on that. And a word of caution, sometimes we see arrangements where there's a little bit of some, hey, I'll give you a gift card if you give me a referral. I just challenge that from the standpoint of the client and say, if you really want the best for your client, are you going to jeopardize a substantial transaction over maybe a $50 gift card? I just don't think that makes great business sense. So really interview well. Don't ask about what's in it for you. Get with someone who knows how to underwrite the policy well, so that when your clients then actually go to closing, the premium is what they expected and that they don't get surprises after closing, because that's a really terrible experience. So really ask questions like if you're sitting down with an agent, ask them, how do you look at underwriting a family? What types of questions do you ask? What's their experience going to be like when they call you? And then number two, I would say this is particularly relevant today. Here, we're recording this in first part of February 2024. It's time is so beneficial when you're looking for insurance today. If you can make that introduction much earlier in the transaction, you're going to equip your client to make a much better informed decision. They're going to have better options, because frankly, even for us agents who are high volume and do a lot of work and we know our carrier partners, underwriting is very difficult today. It's very strict. Sometimes there are a lot of hoops we have to jump through, and it just takes more time sometimes to get a new policy to the finish line. So the earlier you can make that introduction, the better. Now, turning more to us as consumers,
yes,
I have a couple thoughts there. So if we're a consumer of insurance today, and we've received a renewal in the last 365 days or year, it's gone up. Like almost unequivocally, you've gotten probably a substantial renewal rate increase. And that always begs the question, do I shop? Do I stay? What do I do? So my philosophy is it doesn't hurt to look around. There's a credit component in most states to insurance, but it doesn't impact your credit score negatively. It's not going to impact your ability to qualify for a loan later. So there's no punitive aspect to shopping. There is some aspect to actually moving your coverage too frequently. Carriers begin to see, this person moves their coverage every year. They can begin then to rate that into your actual cost in the future. So I'm not saying don't move your coverage, but think before you move it. But when you look, one of the things right now in particular to be super careful is before you actually cancel that, I'd call it the incumbent policy, the existing policy for the new coverage, make sure that you've looked over that application that you're signing and that it's accurate. Because what we're seeing today is more carriers are doing what we would call like post-bind underwriting. And what that means is they're taking what the agent said was true, but they're saying, we're going to actually double check that. And this is now after you've made the decision. You've maybe called your State Farm or your Geico agent and said, hey, I don't want the coverage anymore. You've canceled. Now you get a letter from your new carrier and they're saying, we need this or we need that. Or, hey, we're going to raise your rate because you didn't disclose this properly in the application. So when you're going to make that change, be thoughtful about it. Really make sure that what you've disclosed and what's reflected on that application is accurate, and you're going to be set up best for no surprises then once that new coverage starts.
Don't quit a job till you have a job, right?
That's a good way to say it.
Especially today.
And I think that's true across the board. I mean, lending underwriting guidelines have gotten tighter and tighter, and this whole idea of, so many buyers will go in and get pre-qualified, and then by the time you get fully underwritten, either the story's changed or some of the details on that loan application are not exactly what they expected. Like, how much do you make? Well, I make $100,000. You really make 60. So let's talk about that. So it's all of those where I could totally see where in the insurance world that would be a thing, and holding on to what you've got until you switch over makes a lot of sense. And a lot of times, too, they'll send a drive-by appraiser to come by as well and determine if that's got wood shingles or if there's some other factor or characteristic about the home that it might not be insurable, or at least increase your costs.
And it might be that beautiful live oak that's 3 feet away from your house that you just absolutely love. And the insurance company says, well, your old carrier might have been okay with that. We ain't. So cut it down. That's a really, really difficult place to find yourself. And you go back begging to your old carrier saying, please take us back. That's not very fun these days because many times they're not wanting to take them back.
No. Well, that's their way out, right?
They've got
you walked
a nice,
away. If you want to come back now,
out.
your premium's gone up. So absolutely makes sense, because you don't want to be stuck without insurance if you have a mortgage on your home, because they will put in place an insurance premium that is quite substantially higher than what you're used to paying. So that is not something that we have that happen every once in a while. They're like, well, I thought the change happened.
Yeah, we've seen that. It can be 3 to 4 times higher than what your better coverage policy and is actually costing. Because many times that forced place coverage actually is missing some very vital coverage. They're really looking out for the mortgage holder, not you as the homeowner.
Yeah.
So.
We shopped, I think last year. So my wife has an insurance background, and she catches these things. I don't read the details. Terrible, I know. But she said, let's get some quotes, right? And she starts digging in and finding that there's small nuance that they do not match policy, right? They're trying to discount this, and it's very small. They're not alerting you up front like, hey, red flag, this is not the exact policy. They're just like, well, this is it. And most people look at that rate. What should the things as a homeowner, what should we be looking for in deductibles and coverage and replacement costs, any of that? And do you find that there's a lot of people way underinsured at this point?
We unfortunately do. A lot of the clients we work with, when they first come to us, we find that they are, at a minimum, poorly educated about insurance, but often also underinsured. And so our approach is always to try to educate them, because at the end of the day, we want to put that homeowner or that auto owner in the driver's seat, making the right decision for their family. Because at the end of the day, we don't know you as well as you know you. We know you only because of what you tell us, and sometimes there's some things that come up when we do a little extra digging that we find and people don't necessarily volunteer.
Oh, you
and that's
dig.
okay. We do some digging. Yes, we're supposed to. Right?
I'm pretty sure they all do.
We don't like those surprises after closing. Those are the worst calls to get, where, now I got to call that client and tell them why the rate went up because they have 3 pit bulls that they didn't tell us or whatever. So anyway, what I would suggest, if you're looking, just a few basic things to really pay attention to, especially today. Number one, deductible, because in a lot of states right now, especially those that have common hail exposures, we're seeing carriers change the game on deductibles. And in the state where I've lived for a long time, which is Oklahoma, we've gotten accustomed to having what we call a separate wind and hail deductible. But some states are not used to that. And we're starting to see even states that traditionally don't have that carve out for a specific wind or hail deductible are now adding it. And we're seeing in states where maybe we were used to having a 1%, which is really a kind of a shortcut. They should just say the dollar amount, but what they mean is 1% of the main or primary coverage amount. So if you have your home insured for, let's say, $500,000, a 1% deductible is $5,000. So you might have a deductible that's called split, and it's $1,000 all perils, or all other perils technically, and then 1% for wind and hail. That really means you got a $5,000 wind and hail deductible. What we're seeing is that 1% is kind of going away in some states. We're seeing it replaced by 2%, and in some cases, 3% deductibles. So really be aware when you change policies, even within the same carrier. Like let's say you just rewrite to a new, it's popular amongst some carriers to say, well, let's just look at putting you on the new policy format. It's got different bells and whistles. One of the things they're doing is they're sometimes saying, hey, we're going to give you a higher deductible than what you had before. So definitely look at deductibles. Okay. Definitely look for replacement cost coverage. I mean, I think that's a non-starter for any homeowner. Most times if you have a mortgage, you've got to have that coverage in place. But make sure that you have replacement cost coverage generally on not just the home itself, but also on the personal belongings, which is also called coverage C. Just a little hack there for you. The other thing we see that's sometimes missing from coverages is code upgrade, or ordinance or law is another name for it. So if you're making that insurance switch and you are trying to compare policies, be sure that new policy, even if the old policy didn't have it, that's something you really, really want. What we're seeing is an increased rate of changes for some of the building codes. And what happens is if your house was built before the latest code was in place and now there's been some code changes, when they go to rebuild that house after it burns down, or sometimes maybe it's just a roof replacement, and the code has changed, the insurance company typically will not pay for the difference in cost for that new code unless you have that endorsement. So definitely look for code upgrade. Another thing I would just be really aware of, we've seen a lot more of this lately since since the COVID era, we've all sometimes done some nice renovations to our house. Some of those are not in our house. Some of them are in our backyard. We've added a pool, or maybe added a nice outdoor kitchen. Yep. Be careful about how those are insured, because sometimes those actually fall under what we'd call an other structures coverage, which is a separate limit sometimes at actual cash value. So your kitchen you just spent $70,000 on and built in your backyard, it's your pride and joy, may only get rebuilt for $50,000. That's going to be a real ouchie when that claim comes through. So really look at those things if you are making a switch, because it is difficult sometimes on the surface to tell what the actual differences in coverage are.
Makes sense. Okay.
So is there like a cheat sheet for all this, or do you just right? Because it's so funny. I'm an investor and I own a lot of investments, and it wasn't until we switched insurance companies that we learned about the whole rental loss. Yes. Right? We didn't have it right out of the gate, and so now when I talk to a lot of my clients, we make sure that they have that. But that was an education that I had to kind of go through a period of risk before learning about. So as a consumer, how can I, because we're talking to mostly real estate agents, they want to provide the best service for their borrowers, their clients. Is there something that we can tell them, a place that we can point them to, or is it just about partnering with the right people?
I think the best place to start is partnering with the right people. But I do want to reinforce what I said earlier, that only you know you the best. So even as much due diligence we try to put in, we try to ask all the right questions, we try to be thorough in our research, we may still miss something. So at the end of the day, and in many states, this is where insureds don't always know till the bad thing happens, that in many states in the U.S., they're actually responsible for procuring the right coverage. And even if their agent didn't recommend everything perfectly, you can't always blame the agent. And so while that's not true for every state, at the end of the day, a consumer is responsible for protecting their assets. Sure. And so take this really seriously. I know sometimes insurance feels like a bit of a commodity, like, hey, I can buy it from here or I can buy it from there. It's all the same. Insurance is not all the same. And so the starting place is work with a great advisor, work with someone who at the end of the day is going to give you the advice that you need, not the advice you want to hear. And I always like to say, sales got a lot easier for me when I started my sales conversation by telling my new prospect something along the lines of, okay, so first off, I need you to agree to something. You can fire me at any time. If I stop delivering value, please fire me. I only get paid if I'm delivering value to you. So just know that you don't need to like listen to me to be nice. Like if you have your insurance with your brother and you like it, just tell me no. Like tell me to go away.
Yeah.
But my job is to give value. And so I'm going to give value the best I possibly can, and you can fire me anytime. And then number 2 is we can still be friends, even if you have to fire me. So you have to make the decision as a consumer that's right for you, that's right for your family, that's right for your financial situation, and work with people who aren't so hungry that they're just desperate to close a deal. Because when someone's desperate to close a deal, they start cutting corners, and they maybe don't tell you about this endorsement that got added on, which now you don't have replacement costs in your personal belongings. So the $80,000 of furniture is not going to get covered at $80,000 anymore. So really look for someone who is not so hungry they're going to just tell you what you need to hear. You need to find someone who will tell you that, hey, look, when we get to the end of this, if I'm not the right provider and I don't think I can do the best work for you, I'll just tell you, hey, I'm not the best. You should go somewhere else. And I've always adopted that principle, and I call it like the best sleeping medication I can take, because I sleep really well when I go to bed at night. Because I gave 100%. I tried to be there for my clients that I was in front of that day, and I was always upfront and honest with them.
I love that. We do the exact same thing in our business. It's that ability to say no from both sides. You know, at the end of this, if I don't think that this is a good fit or we're not providing the value, I have the right to say no. I want you to have the same right and feel good about it.
That's right.
Right?
100%.
It's not a guilt. This shouldn't be. This is like big decision making. Yeah. So you have to feel really confident with the people that you're working with. So there's so much going on in the insurance industry, and I know you guys, you specifically, and Comma Insurance is kind of ahead of that technology curve. What's changing in the industry that you can point to and let people know?
Not enough.
Not enough.
If you think the insurance industry is stuck in the Stone Ages, it kind of is. I would describe insurance as an industry as close to 20 years behind where I feel like it should be in many ways. And there are reasons for that. And they're probably pretty good reasons, honestly. We really don't want a bunch of fly-by-night companies offering insurance and not being there to pay claims. So there are certain things that are built into how insurance companies operate that make them resistant to change. So it's probably for our good, but there are many days where I just think my life would be so much easier if these were like innovative, like tech-forward companies that really were on the cutting edge, and that's not the case. Yep. So some of the ways we try to get ahead of that and make it easier for our consumers are, number one, we try to offer a portal for our consumers, so you can see where your policies are whether they're with carrier A, B, or C. You're going to be able to go to that same place for the life of your relationship with our agency. We try to do everything digitally that we can. We love email and text and all the other stuff. We really don't meet with a lot of clients face-to-face these days, and it's really good for our business to do that because it's so much more convenient for our clients. Yeah. In the insurance space, some of the ways we've seen technology over the last few years come out, but that will continue. Number one, you've probably all been offered a telematics program on an auto policy. That's basically usage-based insurance, unless you live in California. It's very limited there. So if you're in California watching,
so sorry.
Plug your ears or something because we can only use mileage to rate you there, not telematics. But for every other state, pretty much, we can use telematics. And what that does is it uses either an app or sometimes data directly from the car, which allows the carrier to understand some of your driving habits, time of day, how fast you drive, how you brake,
I don't
how
want
many
that
miles.
on my car.
Well,
don't
so that's
that
the thing. Many people do opt out of that. And so one of the things that I'm going to talk to you about trends, we are going to see more pressure on users to accept that or pay a surcharge. So over the next couple of years, it would not surprise me if you're one of those who doesn't like that, whether for privacy reasons or because you like the pedal, the right pedal, not the left.
What are you saying?
Or both pedals.
She's always coming in
I
hot.
like both. I drive with both feet.
So you may end up paying a little more for that freedom to drive with both feet, and that's okay. And so what I like to think of that is, the more accurately we can price a risk, lets the consumer then decide, am I willing to pay extra for either the privacy or the ability to go out and street race a little bit, or do I want to try to get my insurance rate down a little bit by offering my driving data? There's going to be a lot more focus on that over the next couple of years. On the homeowner side, we're starting to see some carriers lean into some of the smart home things, but it doesn't show up a ton in rates yet. So don't take my comments here, go out and automate your home and then call your agent and say, hey, where's my discount?
Yeah.
We're not there yet, but we're starting to see some trends, and I think that's promising. Things like leak detection and other things that can help reduce claims do make a difference, and they should help reduce our premiums overall. the other thing that technology seems to be driving on the back end that a lot of consumers may not understand yet is, and Nicole touched on it earlier, some of the post-binding inspections or drive-bys. A lot of those are starting to be done by drones, and they can see a little more than someone walking around the outside. They're also starting to lean into a lot more artificial intelligence in looking at previously taken aerial photographs to start looking at like tree overhang and general maintenance condition, zooming in on roofs, looking at condition, not just age, and trying to validate the age of those roofs. So we're starting to see that play in some into the insurance underwriting and rating process. And I have mixed feelings about it. As a consumer, I like my privacy. I tend to be privacy forward. But as a professional that wants to help my clients obtain insurance at a favorable price, one of the biggest things that can help pricing be favorable is we would call it like accurate rate for the risk. Meaning, if you're going to have a lead foot and drive fast, you might have a higher wreck.
I already have higher
accident.
insurance.
There we go. So you're paying for it.
Clear.
But
Happily.
if you
Let's be
want to
clear.
drive slow and avoid rush hour and all these other things, don't you feel like it's fair that maybe you should pay a little less for your insurance? And so I
Agreed.
think starting to move some of these factors in is difficult for all of us. It's not easy. Change is hard. But I think at the end of the day, it will give some levers for consumers to use and hopefully help control some of their cost in the long run.
Seems like there's just some common sense to this, right? Like,
Most of it's pretty common sense, honestly. There are a few things that are a little out there.
comma insurance, comma.
Don't
We
try
do
to
like
weave
common
that
sense
in.
around here. Yeah.
I do wish there was more amplified messaging, especially to us in Colorado or those that live in wildfire areas. I mean, more than half of our residents are in a wildfire area right now in Colorado.
Yeah.
That is a real thing. And it seems to be that the people carrying that message of mitigation, getting the scrub oak and everything away from the house and really having the proper things set up is somewhat just falling on the community leadership and not the insurance companies.
Yes.
Let's go.
Defensible space, I think, is the insurance fancy word for it. Honestly, I wish I had better news for you there. I have looked personally at insuring some risks that are very challenging to even find coverage for that have wildfire exposure. And even with some very expensive defensible space work done by contractors who specialize in that, it still is exceedingly difficult for some of these homeowners or investors that own these properties. And I honestly don't know the answer for that today. There are programs, for instance, in California, the California Fair Plan, which have worked to address some of that. Basically, they've set up a subsidized insurer of last resort for the state of California, which allows you to separately purchase that wildfire coverage in some of these risk areas and then layer in what we call a difference in condition policy underneath that, which would cover things like your typical water claims and other more normal homeowners claims. That could be something that Colorado looks at, but at the end of the day, I don't know that the California Fair Plan has worked out that well. I don't know who's listening, but it's not. I'm not a huge fan of it, so it's hard for me to advocate for that. At the end of the day, I do think communities taking action and being responsible is great. I think one of the other areas where we could help manage wildfire risk down on the claim side of things is not just the defensible space, but making sure we have water as accessible as possible. Because at the end of the day, defensible space is great, but if you don't have adequate water to wet that down and even prevent those flames from leaping across that defensible space, it's really hard then for the firefighters to actually fight when that wildfire comes. The other area that I would like to see some improvement that I think could trickle down to cost and availability of insurance would be smoke damage mitigation. So something that a lot of insurers don't think about is there's also a major smoke risk with wildfire. You could have a house that doesn't get touched by the wildfire, but it could have $150,000 of smoke damage because we don't build our houses and think about how do we prevent the smoke from getting in the house and destroying the entire interior to where it all has to be sealed and then refinished. Just like in some cases I've seen claims where you almost totaled the house just because of smoke damage. Wow. And so those things seem like we could do something about them from a code and community readiness standpoint.
Wow. Wish we had better news, but it is what it is.
Yes.
Just keep budgeting for higher insurance costs. That's what it is.
Or for right now, honestly, until those are answered, if insurance could be the difference between affording that property and not, I mean, the wise part of me says maybe buy something a little further from the beautiful. I love the woods. I'd love to back up to a national forest. Trust me. There's nothing better than going out on a hike or enjoying nature in that way. So I'm a huge fan of living near nature. But there are some practical considerations. And so if you're looking at a property where maybe you can afford the property, but you're doubtful on insurance, I mean, the right advisor should tell you maybe think twice or buy something that doesn't have that exposure right now. Save a little more. And so that's the type of advice we want to give is what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear. And that's a really difficult thing because we don't want to be the one breaking up a deal. Like we don't want to break it for our lending partners, for our real estate partners, because we get a lot of referrals from folks that are in the real estate and lending industries. And it's the worst call I have to call them and say, look, I don't know if I can help this client. This is really tough. I don't know where to send them. And I have been able sometimes to call around to my friends who have options that I don't have access to, and sometimes help find an option that I don't earn a buck off of. And I'm always thrilled. I'm like, yes, I helped them find what they needed so this transaction could close on time and on schedule. But it doesn't always work that way.
And you do have to be in front of that, especially right now when we're hearing about insurance continuing to go up. I know Colorado has seen massive increases, as most states have. And then also if you have any kind of HOA, especially if it has master insurance, you have insurance on top of insurance that is going up right now. So having that budget conversation is a conversation that we talk about quite a bit and is so critically important to any kind of purchasing or even, moving insurance companies or moving anything like that is important right now.
Yeah. So you're amazing. Like, this has been incredible. We've spent, 24 hours with Timothy. We've basically known you that long. Probably 30 hours now. Completely impressed. I want to get...
That's very mutual, I would say. It's been a pleasure.
We'll pay you later. I do want to get away from the technical side of insurance a little bit and talk about you as a leader. You're a young CEO. I imagine that's challenging at times, but talk to us about some of your traits, some of your beliefs. I know you are very committed to your faith, wife, 5 kids. I don't want to tell your story for you, but just incredible. And I think you get in that kind of rat race and everything is just about profit, especially in an insurance company. And you take a different approach. I'd love to hear some of that from you, and then also some of your leadership style, some of your skills that you use with your team being somewhat remote. And what does that look like?
Yeah. We have a very hybrid and in some cases full remote team that we get to work with. We have about 65% of our team that's located in or around our home office in Oklahoma City, and then the other 35 is not. And so we have a very, I would say, vibrant hybrid and remote community, but I'd be lying if I said it was easy. We're learning this just like many other employers are. But one of the things that I think it's impossible to talk about this without acknowledging is, for me, in terms of culture and what we're trying to develop for our team and for the impact that we have on each of our team members' personal lives, it starts with it's a faith-based decision for me. It's work is more than just making money, and success is more than just IPOing one day. It's about building something you can be proud of with people that you have been able to impact their life and they've impacted yours. And honestly, my career's about 15. I'm about 15 years into my career, and I have never worked with a greater team of people. Like, I love the people I work with. I pinch myself because I get to work with great people who care, who want to do the right thing, and there's nothing that thrills me more when I hear about the victories they have in their private life. Maybe buying that first house. Maybe it's, getting engaged to the person they've been dating. Maybe it's having that first kid. Maybe it's just something like, hey, I had a goal to lose 15 pounds this year and I did it. Those things are huge, and I love work accomplishments. I love when we hit the next million in sales or whatever. That's all great, but it just warms my heart when I get to see the lives that we get to impact. And I think as an employer, we have a really unique opportunity. We get to spend a lot of time with our teams doing hard stuff together, and they call it work for a reason. Like, it's not easy, and many days you're just like, can I get up and do another day of this? It's been like our industry, it just like yours, has been really, really challenging. Both of your industries have been super challenging, and some days it feels like you just get kicked in the teeth every day. Like, it's just, you just get up and I'm going to get kicked in the teeth.
I think it really was. 2023 was a daily event. It's starting to turn.
It is. And so one of the proudest moments for me is that when we look back at 2023 and our core team and who we got to work with and who stuck it out with us, it's the greatest honor that they have gone down that journey with us and they've hung in there. Like, because it's been hard. Like, every day is hard. When your clients are calling you and saying, "Hey, why did my insurance go up 65%?" and you're crying for them and you're trying to help them out and you're doing everything you can. It's just really hard out there. So I think it goes back to one of our values. We have 5 values that guide everything we do at Comma, and one of them is be personal. And for us, being personal means be personal to our clients. We want to have as personal a relationship as we can with every client. And we have thousands of clients, active clients. It's not like we did one transaction with them. No, an insurance client's a client like for as long as they have a policy with you. And so our goal is to always try to know them on a first name basis, know about them, and be personal with them. But it also applies to our team. Like, we've got to be personal with our team. It means me being vulnerable when I'm having a really crappy day and saying, you know what, I'm not at my best today, team, and I'd just appreciate a little grace today. Or I'm having a really great day, but I can tell you aren't. Maybe you should go home a couple hours early, kiss your spouse and take them out to dinner tonight and try to remind yourself what's important, why you do all this. So that's really what we try to be about. We have so much further we can go. I think the future's bright in terms of how we can take better and better care of our team members. But at the end of the day, my role model was Jesus, and I think that he served everyone that he met. He loved people. He served people who had less, who had no influence. He even spoke against those who had influence but didn't use it well. And I want to be one of those types of leaders who stands up for people that need to be stood up for, and that tries to serve the people that I get to work with every day. And so my hope is that if anyone on our team listens to this, is that this actually resonates with what they see and isn't just me talking, because I really work every day to embody that desire to serve them. I don't want it to be words. I want it to be the actual way I interact with our team each day.
I love that. And I know that speaks to both of us as well, because we're deeply spiritual. So when you come at that, and I'm far, far, far from perfect as a leader, but it is that constant trying to elevate and to serve. And I know as a leader, you work twice as hard as anyone on your team to try to make sure that continues to build and create the kind of success that you've seen. For everyone. Talk a little bit about the trajectory of success that you've seen at Comma Insurance and maybe some of the strengths that got you there.
Yeah, so we obviously think the future is extremely bright at Comma. And to give you a little sense of kind of what that looks like for us, last year was arguably the hardest market year for personal lines insurance, which represents about 99% of our business. It was the hardest year in the markets in arguably 40 years. So in my lifetime, I'm not quite 40 yet. In my lifetime,
Nice.
It hasn't been a thing to have a market this hard. And so when you see a market that hard and all the headwinds and many clients you can't help because you simply don't have a policy to offer them, like you'd love to help them, they're great people, that we'd love to make a commission on it, obviously, sure. But we sometimes don't have a policy that we can sell them and at least feel good about. Yeah. And so going into that kind of market dynamic, we managed to finish the year with 50% growth in terms of our total business. And so when I think about what we accomplished together in the year of IC, which was 2023, I am crazy optimistic about what we're going to do together in 2024. And so we're leaning in. We believe that when the storms are out there and the ships have a choice to sit in harbor or they can go out and sail, we're going to go out and sail. We think that our ship is probably more danger in harbor than when we're out sailing. And so we're going to go sail into that storm. And when we get back to the harbor and half the ships are wrecked, we're going to have a little bit upper hand. And that sounds really aggressive, but I think, number one, if you're listening to this as another insurance professional, there's plenty of room for all of us. I think we need more great professionals in our industry. So welcome. You don't have to work with Comma. You can be right across the street and try to take our clients. Great. I love it because we need more great people in our industry. So there's room for all of us to be great. And those of us that really want to be great need to just keep pushing. And so we're going to do that. Like I said, I already said I'm super proud of our team. When I look at what we've accomplished over the last year, I just know we're going to carry that momentum into 2024 and beyond, and the future's super bright.
I'm so excited for you. I'm ready to run through a wall with you. This is amazing. So for us out there that maybe are going to go home tonight, talk to our spouses about looking at our insurance policies and shopping them over the weekend, what's the best way we can contact? I don't want to call you on the weekend. That's not your job. What's the best way we can connect with Comma, or what do you suggest for us that are just, where do I go?
Yeah, so one of the things that we, I don't know if it's a stigma that you fight or not, but sometimes people do assume that I can just go online 15 minutes and save 15% or whatever. Like that advertising seems to work, apparently. Our philosophy is a little bit different. We are not the light speed agency. In fact, if you want that, probably don't call us. We really want to actually take the time to spend some conversation with you, to ask you questions, to get to know who you are, what's important to you. And then we want to do some work on the back end to evaluate the best options we can so that we can give you that honest feedback of, hey, we're either a great solution or no, we're not a good solution, but maybe we have a referral for you. So I would suggest if you want to do, have Comma take a look at anything, commainsurance.com is our website. It's 2 M's, COMMA, insurance.com. We have, I don't even remember what the tab name is, but we have a map on our site. It's very easy to find. It's in the locations tab. And you can find, if we have an agent in your state and you want to work with someone local, please, just look them up. I don't have a favorite agent. Maybe I do. No, I don't have a favorite agent. We have some really awesome people on our team, but we do try to make it easy. If you care about working with someone local, where we have someone local, we want to make them available to you. If we don't have someone in your state, you can call the 800 number on the bottom. We will help you to the degree we can. And if we don't have options in the state that we feel are compelling, we'll just tell you that. And if you call us and you get an answer other than that, or you feel like you've been like, please look me up. Like, do the due diligence. Like, look me up and complain to me, because that's not the culture we want to have. We want to have a culture of trying to help everyone we can, but also being honest when we can't help someone.
Fearless, transparent, faith. Like, these are the words that I'm just pulling from this conversation that make me want to dig in deeper with you. Kudos and congrats on what you're building and what you have built. And my goodness, this is awesome. I'm so glad we met, and so glad we had some time. Anything on your end?
No.
I could go on for hours, right? This is fantastic.
Can we listen to insurance for hours? No.
I could listen to Timothy.
I was literally about to say that. No, I do think that what you've done and the company that you've created, I'd love to just kind of double back on this one thing before we do part ways today and talk about those people who are entrepreneurs, right? So they want to be successful. They want to be Timothy. Right? So you've had this level of success. You look like you're 12, which
Thank
you're
you.
adorable.
I am 35. I don't mind disclosing. So I'm a little older than 12.
He's confident. He's confident.
Nicole, I am still in the room.
You can probably
Nicole.
Google me and figure that out. Like, most of this stuff is really hard to hide anyway. So
It is very true.
Peter's got some. What do you
I don't
got,
mind just
Peter?
like saying it.
I am still in the room. Honey. I'm still here.
I didn't cross the line there. I didn't cross the line often. That was not one of them. But as somebody, because you do in this world that we live in right now, everybody wants to become a YouTube star. They want to become an instant millionaire. They want to try that entrepreneurial spirit. And insurance and mortgage lending and real estate are some of those gateways, if you will, to success. And rarely do you need even a college degree to have level of success. So I'd love to kind of maybe lean on this before we part and then kind of land the plane here is, what can someone do to follow your shoes? What is the life of Timothy? How did you get to here? And maybe some pointers you can help out with.
I think it's really important to thank those that have given me an opportunity. I don't ever want to be ungrateful. Like in our family circle, I have 5 children at home. We try to take every evening and spend a few moments as a family together, and everyone goes around and shares something they're grateful for the day. And it could be a really difficult day. It could be a day where you really don't feel like you're thankful for anything. But there's always something to be thankful for. So I always want to start from a position of gratitude. And so I think first to acknowledge that the country we live in and the opportunity we have is ours because of other people's sacrifices. And I am so thankful for, we have so much egg on our face. I know it. We've got lots of issues. I'm not saying America's perfect. There are lots of things I would love to change, but I am so grateful for what we do have. And I think starting with that attitude and understanding that opportunity is what you'll make of it is really, really important. So if you're out there and you're wondering, like, how do I get started? I'll just share a little bit of where I've been, and if it's any encouragement, I hope great. And if it's discouraging, please just turn it off, because don't need to listen to other people and be discouraged by it. Like, the goal is to inspire and help other people also do great things. And so for me, it started with a handful of people taking a bet on me. Like, I randomly got a college scholarship opportunity that I wouldn't have been able to afford. And someone took a bet on me, and they said, I'm going to take a bet on this guy and help him out and fight for him to get a scholarship here so he can come get an education. And so one of the things that I did very early on when I started college, because, I mean, who counts high school? Like, I was not very mature at all in high school. I don't know about you, but
there's no way
it's
you
a good thing that I'm not like I was in high school. Yeah. So, so I do feel like when I embarked from my parents' house to go on this college journey, that was the beginning of my adult life, and it's different for different people. Some people get thrust into that younger, and if that's you out there, I am madly impressed with you. For me, it was when I moved away for college, and one of the things I committed to, I made a solemn commitment that someone else had paid money so that I could have this opportunity, and I wasn't going to let them down. I didn't even know who these people were, but someone had donated money so that I could study. And so, by golly, I showed up every day for class. I showed up dressed for success. I was there early. I studied hard. I gave it everything I had. And so that has become ingrained in who I am. You may not love everything that I care about or be passionate about things I'm passionate about, but if you know me, I hope you know that I'm going to leave it all out on the field. Like, I may lose, but I will leave it all out on the field. And I think that's really important. So starting with that juncture, I just left it all out there. And one thing I learned really early was to... I had a very odd misconception of successful people. I thought successful people would be like snobby and rude and not want to help people. And what thankfully that experience in college exposed me to was some successful people that were some of the kindest, some of the most helpful, some of the most gentle, some of the most genuine people I've ever met in my life. And it changed my perspective in such a way that I recognized that I could go up and ask someone for help, and they might actually help me. And they might not just pull up the line behind them, they might give me a hand and pull me up behind them. And so I have been just incredibly fortunate. Sometimes it takes guts. You got to go ask for that help. Not everyone's just like handing you the ladder, but go ask for that help. If you see someone who has something that a type of life that you want, go talk to them. More often than not, they'll probably talk to you and share wisdom. And so I have been so fortunate to follow in the footsteps of greats before me who have kindly invested in me. And sometimes they paid for lunch too. Like, I didn't even have to pay for their lunch. Like, I have been so gifted with opportunities that were there maybe because I asked for them, but not because I deserved them. And so I would encourage you, just ask. Like, when you're out there and wondering, like, hey, what's the next step? Find someone who has taken that next step and ask them how they did it. And that's just been invaluable. And then lastly, I'll just kind of try to close it on this thought so I don't drag on. But I had this idea when I graduated high school that I was going to be some great business entrepreneur. And I thought, okay, that means I got to own everything. And so one of the things that was also a misconception that thankfully I did not get wrong, I think, is that you don't have to go it alone. Like, sometimes having a partner, or whether it's a life partner or just a business partner, if it's the right person, it's the best thing you can do. Like, when I look back on my journey with Comma, I would not be here if it weren't for partners, if it weren't for people both inside our business that were legitimately partners, financial partners, and those outside our business that were partners who just were willing to go down a journey with us when we didn't have all the answers. I wouldn't be here. And so that idea of, okay, the entrepreneur does it alone, that YouTube star is just, it's all them and they have no supporting cast. If that's what that is, I have no desire for that. I'm sorry. I don't care how many Lamborghinis they have. I really am enjoying this process of struggling and failing and learning and then improvising and doing better together with other people that have a vested interest with me in that journey. And I am so fortunate to have been surrounded by people like that.
I love what you just said. I love everything about it, because I do think there are loners out there 100%. But for most people, finding that connection in those partnerships, whether they're formal or informal, is so game-changing. And you think that you have to be ahead in order to win, but you don't actually have to be ahead in order to win. I was talking to another young gentleman who is investing. He's investing in commercial properties and multi-unit properties, and he reminds me of a younger version of you, to be honest. And I asked him, how did he become so successful? Here I am, more than double his age. And I was asking him for tips on some of the decisions that he'd made and some of the success that he'd had. And he said, I called up people that I wanted to mirror. I just literally called them up out of the blue. They didn't know me. And I said, can I buy you coffee? And they said yes. And what a shock that is.
It's brilliant,
right?
And it works.
And so to see that level of success in him, now in you, it really does go to resonate. There are people that will feel threatened when you ask, because that is regretfully a big part of human nature. And they'll feel threatened and they'll want to shut you out. And that's okay. And you can't take that personally. You just have to move on to the next person.
Yeah, those
to
people
ask
are
the
not
question.
the people you want to be like.
No.
Like it's the greatest honor when someone calls me and says, "Hey, I'd love to ask you some questions about your journey. Can I buy you coffee?" It's like, that's huge. Of course I want to help that kind of person. And if I didn't, I'm ashamed of who I've become. The last piece on partnership that I did miss that I think is super critical, and I am immensely lucky. I've been married for a little over 11 years now, and I couldn't do it without my other half. So with our family dynamic, we have kids at home, and she's fighting the fight with them right now, and it's a very difficult time of our lives just with the hustle and bustle of parenting. But one of the things that has been invaluable to me is that on those days when you get knocked down, like if you want to be an entrepreneur, it's going to be tough. There are going to be days where you think it's all lost. Like it's just, you don't see a way out, honestly. And to be able to have someone in your life, a life partner, spouse, friend, who can help tell you to get out there again the next day, and also just say, it's okay, I still love you. Like, I know you're a total failure right now, but I still love you. Like, that's just invaluable. And so I just want to point that out, that if you want to go down this journey and you already have someone in your life, if you don't check it with them first and make sure they're on board, it's going to be a long road. And I don't wish that on anyone. And so I am so fortunate that I get to go down that road with a life partner who is on that road with me. But I wouldn't be where I'm at if there were like push and pull there, like if we weren't in it together. And so I would just, a word of caution, like you can conquer the world and maybe feel great about yourself, but if you don't have any good friendships or lifelong relationships, what does that really say about what kind of life you lived? And so if you're in this situation choosing between conquering the world and obtaining some elusive level of success or having relationships you can be proud of, by golly, I'd choose the latter every day. So if you get both, great. But if I had to pick, I would definitely go with relationships.
Yeah. It does not have to be lonely at the top.
Yeah, it does not have to be.
It does not have to be. I think I would chalk this up to success leaves clues. And you've left so many clues for this audience today to really dig in and find their own success and be inspired. And I can't wait to listen to this, just clear my head and listen with far more intent. This is incredible. So I know you got to go. You got a flight. We got to get you to the airport. Timothy Harlin, the humble leader, kind heart, pouring yourself into everything and everybody around you. Thank you so much for being a part of this today and joining us. And we'd love to have you back at some point. Don't be a stranger to Denver. Okay?
Well, thank you.
Yes,
Don't be a stranger to Oklahoma City either.
Hey, we're on our way.
Invite is open.
We're on our way.
It's a little cheaper to go to Oklahoma City.
Okay, we're on
We'll
it.
do that.
Let's go.
Yeah, there we go.
The market's still a little tricky.
Anytime. Yeah.
Well, you guys, thank you so much for listening. Please continue to follow us on podcast channels. We are on YouTube right now under Why It Matters. As always, like, subscribe, bring a friend. You guys don't come alone, right? Let's bring everybody we can to this. And next time we're going to talk about why it matters again. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Nicole, always so much fun.
Oh my goodness. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.